Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast, your weekly breakdown of everything District 4 in the state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, and we're joined today by the guy who's got nothing. Nada, zilch, squat. Scott Burton.
Hey, Brandon, how's it going? You're right. I've got nothing today. You know, those days where you just wake up and you're like, I just don't have anything today. There's nothing in the tank. There's nothing on the calendar. I just got nothing.
That's all good because we've got plenty going on that we're going to be able to, run through. So we're going to talk state golf. We're going to talk district soccer. We're going to talk, some big football matchups that have been taking place because we're getting to the end, right? The first fall championship domino has fallen, and it's going to be a sprint for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's so crazy how busy fall gets. And because of the busyness, it goes by so quickly. And now here we are starting the district tournaments. I mean, soccer is just about done. Volleyball starts this week. And then we've got district cross country coming up and swimming. Golf is already done. I mean, yeah. So here we are going into our kind of a dead time between sports. And then where the only thing that's going to be happening is playoff football.
That's right. And as somebody who has to get, I have 1 foot, I'm like straddling the line, right? We've got fall sports, but then I also got to get ready for the winter sports season. IdahoSports.com does statewide previews for all of the girls and boys basketball. We've got some really exciting wrestling coverage we're adding to this year. So I wish there was more of a gap in between instead of the constant overlap, because it makes me a very busy guy. And so
it does. I mean, I don't know how you do it all, but that's why you get paid the big bucks, Brandon.
That's right. Still not as big as you, though. I'm requesting that Burton salary, but
those are the side hustles, my friend. That's where you make your money.
That's right. You're a man of many talents. All right. Speaking of talented individuals, let's move to what was the. I always get you with the transitions.
Yeah,
right?
You do since day one. Very impressive.
All right. Well, last week we had the state golf championships. First time ever. 5A, 4A golf was held in the fall. The 5A meet was in Rexburg. The 4A meet was in Idaho Falls. And really, that's what we're focused on here on the 4A side. We talked about it coming in, Scott, that, Twin Falls on the girls' side had a shot in the team race. Now, they had played at the Jerome Invite, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Bishop Kelly had come to that invite, and Bishop Kelly had won the team title. So we were like, okay, it's probably going to come down to BK and Twin. Could the Bruins shake off that quote unquote loss to BK at the Jerome Invite and come through with a championship? And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. I mean, we knew it right from the start. It was going to be Bishop Kelly and Twin Falls. I mean, they are just the dominant teams in 4A. And, a lot of times people use those invitationals to, try things out. And one thing, and I was a golf coach once upon a time. And, sometimes you get your strategy for state on these invitational, especially when you're going up against teams like Bishop Kelly and, Twin Falls. It's like, okay, how am I going to attack this? Who's my 1? Who's my 5? Who am I going to pair them with? Who are they going to be able to play with? Because, when you're playing golf, I mean, you're matched up in the 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, who's playing well together, and who can handle the pressure, who can. And that's what you use a lot of these invitationals for. And they set you up for a lot of success, at the state tournament. And so it worked out very well for Twin Falls. The Bruins are state champions.
Yeah, they finished 40 strokes over par, but that was enough to give them the win. Bishop Kelly, conversely, was 73 strokes over. So Twin Falls, I mean,
went away with this. Going away, yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this was a dominant performance led by a dominant golfer.
Yeah, we've talked about her all fall long. Ava Schroeder. She is your 4A individual medalist. And again, she plays girls soccer for Twin Falls as well. And we'll get to Ava and her teammates in Twin Falls. She could be double dipping in the championships for this fall, which would be awesome.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how cool would that be? 2 state titles in one season. I mean, one like fall, not just school year.
That would be worthy of a podcast invite. You know, we might try to get Ava Schroeder on anyways, just to talk about how it went for her.
I would love that.
Yeah.
If we can get their golf coach to get back to us.
Yeah, might have to reach out on the soccer side and see if we can get in that way.
Yeah, no kidding. But Ava just runs away with the state title. I mean, shoots 11 under par.
Yeah, and I think the stat that's most sums it up to me is the entire weekend, boys or girls, 5A or 4A, she led the way with 15 birdies. Nobody else even matched that on the weekend.
There's guys I play with that don't get 15 birdies in a summer, you know? But yeah, I mean, absolutely destroyed it. I mean, shoots. I mean, it's a model of consistency. And that's the thing about golf is, you know, you get into certain handicaps that they'll shoot 75 one day and then 95 the next. You know, those are not going to be your champions and great golfers. Okay. Because it's any given day that they can blow it up. But Ava is a model of consistency. You know, when she goes out and she's playing well, I mean, she's firing a 65 day one and then follows that up with a 64 the next day. And it's all about consistency in golf.
Yeah, what a run for Ava Schroeder. Other Magic Valley golfers who placed in the top 10, Sierra Bourne, her Twin Falls teammate, tied for 5th, along with Allison Shockey of Minico, who had a great individual season. You also had Ava Young from Minico finish in 9th. So Minico, you know, had a couple of high placing individuals as well.
Yeah, they did, you know, and they've got a couple of pieces that play really, really well, but they just didn't have the depth, you know, that Twin Falls had. And that's the thing with Bishop Kelly and Twin Falls. I mean, you're going to get medalists from other schools, but do you have 4 or 5 golfers that can score for you and create a team? And that's what a lot of people are missing, is they have 1 or 2, but 3 through 5 are just, oh my gosh, you know.
It is. It's tough for sure. On the 4A boys side, Bishop Kelly runs away with the title there. There was actually a tie for the 4A individual championship between Nate Nelson of Shelley and a kid from BK, Dallas Jackson, and the kid from Shelley actually won on the playoff. So way to go, Nate Nelson of Shelley. He's also the quarterback for the football team, so he's been a busy guy. In fact, 4 of the 5 members of Shelley's golf team, I was talking to their football coaches about this, 4 of the 5 members of Shelley's golf team also play football. So there's a school that says, yeah, go for it. If you guys want to do golf, awesome. Just get the practice time in. And so that was pretty cool to see. Derek Leckerkirk of Twin Falls finishes 3rd, 2 strokes off of the 2 leaders that tied for 1st. And then also in the top 10, you had Kane Orr from Minico, who took 7th as well. So,
yeah, I mean, you look at that individual boys side, and I mean, after day 1, it was Leckerkirk leading the way. I mean, he shot the low round of 67 on day 1, you know, and we knew that Nelson was a stick, and we also knew that Jackson and several BK people, they could swing it. You know, my question going in is, where was Leckerkirk going to match up with these guys? And after day 1, he was the guy everybody was chasing, you know, followed it up with a 71. But that, I mean, which normally is good enough to win. I mean, he still shot 2 under par, but look at the rounds posted by Nelson and Jackson, 68, and then Jackson a 66. So, I mean, the Bishop Kelly kid that took 2nd shoots a 70 and then a 66, which is crazy. But go right back to the model of consistency. And that is where Nelson won it, 68 both days.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish to watch that as it all unfolded, certainly. All right, I'm gonna share a video with you now, Scott. This isn't Magic Valley related, but this was so cool. I thought everybody should see this. Madison did really well at the 5A tournament, and especially on the boys side, where Ashton MacArthur from Madison was your 5A medalist. And again, if you're watching the video version of this podcast at IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel or Facebook page, you're going to see the pictures and the video I'm about to share. If you're listening audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, you can find it on Instagram as well. At Ashton MacArthur 5 is his Instagram handle. So I'm going to share my screen, and everybody make your screen full screen so you can see this a little better. Okay, in this first picture, this is Ashton MacArthur of Madison. Here's him celebrating after the win. This is him signing his name on the green. And then watch this video, Scott. He sinks a 30-foot putt to win the 5A title. This is crazy. Watch this video. It's a little blurry, but check this out.
Wow.
How awesome is that? Look at the bend on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then he chest bumps and
oh, that is what it's all about right there.
yeah.
That is awesome. I'm so glad somebody took that, because that is something that kid is going to remember for the rest of his life, because that was pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, I mean, a 30-foot putt, that's no gimme. That is high pressure situation. And so
and that's the thing, Brandon. I mean, golf is such a weird game, because all you've got is yourself, and people handle pressure completely in different ways. And if you ever want to know what it's like to feel pressure, go play the game of golf in a tournament situation, especially when you got stuff on the line. And you'll find out a lot about yourself, and to stay calm in those things, because, golf is one of those games of, you call football a game of inches. Golf is a game of like millimeters, because if you've got one little tiny thing off, you leave that putter blade open just a little bit much, you close the toe just a little bit, everything changes. You're a little bit amped up in your swing because of adrenaline, because it's just you. Who knows, coming across the top of the ball, and next thing you know, it's going left. You're playing Army golf, left, right, and then everything's a mess. But if you want to learn a lot about yourself and how you handle pressure, go play golf under extreme circumstances when you have something on the line. So I like seeing that stuff.
Yeah, that was so cool to see. And I thought, even though it's not Magic Valley, everybody should see that clip.
Oh, of course.
That was awesome. All right, let's move on to other postseason affairs. District soccer, hot and heavy right now. Again, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll put the brackets up on the screen so you can see it right there. If you're listening audio only, you're in luck. We've got all the district brackets on our website, IdahoSports.com, right near the top of the homepage. And that's not just for District 4. That's for every district, every classification. So if you're starting to look at, hey, my team qualified for state, who are they going to be running into? You can look at the other district brackets and start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So let's start with the 3A classification, because we're recording this Wednesday morning on October 14th. They actually have matches tonight, Scott, that will determine, who's going to make it to state and who isn't. So again, as I share my screen here and look at the brackets, if you're watching the video, I would encourage you to make your screen full screen so you can see the brackets a little more clearly. This is the High Desert Conference, District 4 in Class 3A. This is the girls bracket where, Scott, in the championship match tonight at Sun Valley Community School, it's the top two teams. Number 2, Buell. Number 1, Sun Valley. Buell just got past Kimberly, who, if you'll remember, got to state last year and actually were upset by Sun Valley Community School in the opening round at state last year. Kimberly is the defending district champion. They lose 1-0 to Buell in the semifinals. They've still got a chance to battle back. They're going to play Wendell, the 4 seed, tonight, though, in a loser-out match. Yeah,
so, this Buell Community School matchup will be, the third time they've played this year?
Yep.
And both times Community School, got the win. I think they opened the season with them with a 4-1 victory, or Community School did, and then beat Buell again 3-1 later in the season. So, they always say it's hard to beat a good team 3 times. And they've been relatively close. But, Community School is really a solid program. But let's see what Buell's got to say about it. They definitely the underdogs coming in.
Yeah, that's what happened last year, where Kimberly had beaten the Community School in districts and in the regular season. And then they got, because of the Max Preps seeding, they got matched up in the first round at state. And Sun Valley was the 8 seed and knocked off Kimberly, the 1 seed. So that was pretty phenomenal to watch. So good luck to the Final 4 competing there. let's take a look at the boys side for 3A District 4. It's the same final. Well, 3 of the 4 final 4 are the same. In the district championship, you've got Wendell, the number 1 seed, the overwhelming favorite, taking on Kimberly, the 3 seed. Kimberly knocked out the Cutthroats in the semis on Monday in overtime, 3-2. They got a goal in overtime. The golden goal is what they call it when you score in OT. So it's Kimberly and Wendell for the district title tonight in Wendell at 4:00. And then the Cutthroats are going to play Bliss. Bliss, the 4 seed, still hanging around in a loser-out match.
Yeah, Kimberly and Wendell, they're familiar with each other. They've played twice, and both times they were Wendell victories. So here we go, a third time. Can Kimberly pull it off? The first time that they played Wendell early in the season, they lost 3-1, and then later in the season, or midway through the season, they lost 5-3. So here we are, third time's a charm, hopefully for Kimberly in this matchup. But boy, getting the community school out of the way, huge for both Wendell and Kimberly, because it's like you just took down Goliath, even though they were the number 2 seed. I mean, they're the ones that everybody's worried about. You get them out of the way, and now all of a sudden there's a little renewed vigor in both Wendell and Kimberly. It's like, holy cow, we don't have to go through community school.
Yeah, and it is October, the month of Halloween. We've learned from our horror films over the years, you're not dead until you're actually dead. The Cutthroats can still sneak through the back door there. Wendell, with a win tonight, clinches a spot at state, and the Trojans, according to the Max Preps ratings, would be the number 1 overall seed at state this year because it's only factored into your regular season matches. Wendell, of course, went unbeaten in the regular season. So Wendell possibly could be the number 1 seed at state if they get there. They'll have to beat Kimberly tonight, though. But man, the Trojans have been very fun to watch.
Yeah, that game is scheduled for 4:00 in Wendell. So if you get out and want to see some soccer, there's where you're going.
Definitely. All right, let's look at the Great Basin matches coming up tomorrow night, Thursday, the 13th. Let's start on the girls' side where, well, it's 1 versus 2. Canyon Ridge, Twin Falls, they're going to meet for the third time tomorrow at 3 p.m. To decide who's going to win the district. On the backside of the bracket, you've got Wood River traveling to Mountain Home tomorrow as well in a loser-out battle. And then the winner of that will play the loser of the district championship match for that second spot to go to state.
Yeah, this Canyon Ridge Twin Falls championship match is going to be something else. They played twice. Canyon Ridge got the win 2-0, and then later in the season they finished in a 1-1 tie. I mean, these are 2 very evenly matched teams, and you look at this girls bracket, and it really it's Canyon Ridge and Twin. I mean, somebody else is going to have to sneak in there and pull an upset, but this will be a really good game.
And yet, I'll point out right here in the semi right here on Saturday, Canyon Ridge and Wood River battled to a 1-1 draw through 2 overtime periods. It came down to penalty kicks. Canyon Ridge barely slipped out of there 5-4. I still think Wood River has got a lot to say. They've got to go to Mountain Home, which will be a tough matchup, but I do like the Wolverines there.
Yeah, you know what? And maybe I got ahead of myself a little bit. There are a couple of teams here that could potentially pull an upset, and both of them are still alive. I mean, obviously Mountain Home has had a really good season. And, Wood River, when it comes to soccer, soccer, tennis, those you just never count them out. It doesn't matter. They're playing some really good soccer. But I'm just really excited to see what happens in this Canyon Ridge Twin Falls match on Thursday.
Twin Falls has the pedigree, right? They're the reigning 4A state champs. They have a lot of great players back from that championship team. Ava Schroeder, Hannah McQueen. You could go on down the list. And, of course, they're so well coached. So, yeah, that'll be a fun match Thursday. And then on the boys' side, it's, again, 1 versus 2 for the district championship. It's Canyon Ridge and Wood River. And then on the backside, it's 3 and 4. Jerome is going to go to Mountain Home on Thursday in a loser-out battle. It's all chalk thus far, Scott.
Yeah, it really has been chalk. And here we go again with Canyon Ridge being the number 1 seed in both boys and girls soccer. And Canyon Ridge and Wood River, obviously no strangers to each other. Canyon Ridge won the first matchup 1-0. They played a little bit later and lost that one 2-0 up in Wood River. So this will be interesting as well. Wood River is got this Ted Lasso thing going on because Kevin Stilling is the active coach right now. And he has been, 5-6 games in, leading the Wolverines on the boys' pitch. So it's a little different look, but it's going to be a good game. I mean, Canyon Ridge, Wood River, 1-2, 14-2 for Canyon Ridge on the year, 13-2 for Wood River on the year. They are head and shoulders the top two teams because the third seed Mountain Home finished, 8-6 on the year. So you talk about a little bit of a drop. It's Wood River and Canyon Ridge head and shoulders right now in that conference.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I didn't even know that was happening at Wood River with Kevin Stilling. He's, of course, the athletic director. He was the football coach for a long time. I was getting ready to do girls basketball preview stuff yesterday, and I noticed he's listed as the girls basketball head coach as well.
Yeah. He's taken over the helm at the girls basketball position as well. That good friend of mine, but he is going to be busy.
That's yeah.
I know. So it's like he's got some sort of like death wish or something. He's going to die of exhaustion, but he's going to do it. And if there's anybody that can, it's going to be that guy.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, you talk about a guy that bleeds green and silver of Wood River. I mean, that's the guy right there. So, wow. Okay, that's an interesting storyline we'll have to follow as Wood River makes their way through the postseason. But that's what's going on in soccer. No bids officially awarded yet, but by this time next week, we'll know who's going, Scott. And we're going to do a live state soccer tournament preview show. I'm going to bring on one of our talented writers, Christian Wiener. He's been writing the weekend previews all year long for us. He's very plugged into what's going on in the soccer landscape. So we'll do one of those live shows next Tuesday night at 7:00 where fans can hop on and ask questions, give shout outs. We'll go through all the state soccer brackets and we'll preview the boys and girls soccer action there. And then we'll drop that into the podcast feed for the Magic Valley Prepcast. So if fans can't make it to the live show, we'll drop it into the podcast feed as well to break down everything that's going to be happening in state soccer. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's why you're the head guy in this cutting edge stuff that we're doing.
Right. I love doing those live preview shows because the fans can come on and talk a little smack or.
Yeah, we had a blast doing those for state basketball last year and got a lot of interaction. So yeah, those are real fun.
Yeah. So, we'll dive more into state soccer next week. And so then we don't have to talk about it on the Prepcast because we'll have already cleared the way with our preview show. So let's switch to football now, Scott, where we're at the final 2 weeks of the regular season. The big story last week was Dietrich taking on Castleford, a pair of undefeated teams on the season. Who would emerge as the leader, not only for the regular season title, but a chance to still stay undefeated? The answer is Dietrich. They win in a tight one, 26-20 over Castleford. Now, Dietrich jumped up 14-0, and from there, they kind of traded scores. But that initial start by Dietrich was the real key.
Yeah, it was. And we talked about this on the Prepcast. It's going to be offense versus defense. I mean, the explosive Dietrich machine that's putting up video game numbers offensively versus a stout Castleford defense. And, it lived up to its billing. The defense kind of held Dietrich in check. But Dietrich was just a little bit too powerful. But boy, what a ball game. Yeah,
so Dietrich led 14-8 at halftime. Cody Power threw a pair of touchdown passes to Connor Perkins and Case Robertson. Case Robertson's like 6'3", 6'4". It's like almost unfair in 8-man football to have a guy that tall that you can go throw the ball to. Just before halftime, Castleford scores. Gus Wiggins punches it in from the goal line. So it's 14-8 at halftime, and that's right where Castleford wants it. But second half, Dietrich comes out and extends that lead to 2 scores again. Peyton Sneddon with a touchdown run. And then I thought probably the most impressive play, not just of that game, but maybe of the week in the entire state. So Castleford's down 2 scores. They're marching down the field. Ethan Rowland is rolling out to the right side, Scott. And Jamie Ramos, the wide receiver, is cutting back across the grain in the end zone, going to the left. And so Roland comes and throws across his body threw a defender into the end zone for a Castleford touchdown. It was pretty impressive to see. When the season started, Jamie Ramos was the guy throwing the passes, and now he's the guy catching the touchdown passes. And Ethan Rowland was an all-state wide receiver last year. He's now playing quarterback. We talked about it last week with Castleford only having 12 guys. You've got to have that positional versatility, and it was a really impressive throw from Rowland for the touchdown to bring Castleford within a score again, but then Dietrich would answer and close it out. But it was a really impressive throw.
Yeah, and it was, and if you were there and you got to see it, it looked like sandlot ball, right? It's just like you run to the, I think, what was that commercial? You go to the Subaru and then take a left, and it's like that's kind of what it is when you get into those type of situations, and then you just have athletes making ridiculous plays, and that throw should not have happened, because not just you don't throw back against the grain, but physically the arm strength that it takes to do that. That was a really, really impressive play. And it was a timely play because it got him right back into the ball game. So yeah, that was great.
That was a game that we had on IdahoSports.com, and Mike Christensen, our play-by-play guy, he did the whole did he catch it? Is that a touchdown? What are they calling? And the official threw up his hands. And so yeah, it was an impressive play from Castleford. And really, in the grand scheme of things, they lose 26-20. They've still got a shot at second place in the conference. They would need, and possibly, there could still be a three-way tie for first place. Here's what Castleford needs. So now Dietrich plays Camas County this week. So Castleford's already beaten Camas County. Dietrich has beaten Castleford. If the Mushers knock out the Devils, then you've got a three-way tie for first place. And I have no idea how that gets settled. But so that's what Castleford is going to be cheering for the Mushers on Friday night.
Yeah, it's again the year of the musher. Can they keep it going? And and you never want to root for or against teams like when you're in our position, but man, you got to like three-way ties. And if it goes to a Kansas City playoff, man, there's nothing better.
Well, there's three teams that get into the playoffs from the district, so they're all kind of in. It would just be figuring out how you award first, second, and third place. As somebody who has to figure this out, I want simple. So, I personally am going to be cheering for Dietrich to just finish it off, because that makes my job a little easier when I'm trying to figure out who's going where for the playoffs. The one caveat to this is Hanson is still hanging around. They finished the year with Castleford and Camas County. And if Hanson wins out and runs the table, they're the second place team. Even if they beat Camas County and Camas loses to Dietrich, Hanson gets that third playoff spot. So the Hanson Huskies still have a lot to play for as well. They could be a potential fly in the ointment, as it were.
Yeah, that's exactly what they'd be, the fly in the ointment, because nobody really is looking at Hanson as to cause any damage. But they're in a position to where if they pull a couple upsets, they definitely could. Castleford and Camas are going to be some tough, tasks for them. But when you are controlling your own destiny, that's all you can ask for. And you look at, Hanson and their season, they did play Dietrich and got smashed by Dietrich 58-8. So, people look at that and go, okay, Hanson's out. They're not going to be able to compete with the Dietrichs and the Castlefords and stuff like that. But then here they are with two big games left, Castleford and Camas, and they control their destiny.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch how that all unfolds as the season progresses. At the 1A D1 level, it's pretty much set at this point. Oakley, Raft River, Cary, Murtaugh, all pretty much into the playoffs at this point. 3 teams get auto bids, and then there's a couple of at-large bids that get awarded. Those 4 teams can feel pretty good. Lighthouse Christian, Scott, because of the strength of their schedule, they're 1-5 on the season. They only got their first win last Friday over Valley, but because they played such a gauntlet of a schedule, playing Oakley, Raft River, Cary, Grace, all these top 5 teams, they actually, because of the Max Preps ratings, are in the playoffs right now. If they win out, the Lions are going to be in the playoffs. You're looking at 5 teams from District 4 that could be in the playoffs. How crazy is that?
And that right there is another little thing about the Max Preps rankings, because, you think back to the schedule or the podcast that we did last year when we were just now getting into it. One of the things that they said was strength of schedule was a huge factor in this. And so I was having conversations with some ADs this morning regarding the Max Prep rankings right now in football at the 4A level, and how it's goofy right now, because you've got, I think it was Blackfoot that has lost like 4 straight games, yet they're still there, but strength of schedule. And so when we reached out to the Max Preps people, if you remember last year, nobody seemed to know the actual formula. They could kind of give us bits and pieces of it, but the one thing that did stand out was strength of schedule. And now for Lighthouse Christian, the benefits of playing that gauntlet of a schedule, like you said, is reaping some benefits for them.
Yeah, we'll talk about the 4A playoff picture in just a minute. 2A, it's going to come down to Declo-Wendell, final week of the regular season. It's a 2-team conference. Wendell needs to win that game. I don't think there's a path for Wendell to get in as an at-large team. Their Max Preps rating just isn't strong enough. So Wendell has to win that game against Declo. Declo can lose that game and still get in as an at-large, but of course the Hornets would just like to win it and be done with it. So we'll talk more about that game next week. 3A. The big matchup is for the conference title this week, Scott. Buell is going to take on Kimberly. They're both 2-0 in league play, both pretty safely into the playoffs at this point. We've been talking about Buell all season long. Kimberly, Gatlin Bear transferred from Kimberly to Burley, and people thought, boy, they just lost their best player. How are they going to respond? They're fine. They are totally fine. Cade Larson at quarterback is such a dynamic player for Kimberly. This is going to be another offensive Kimberly versus that strong defense of Buell.
Yeah, that is a game that has been circled for a little while now, just with the rise of Buell and the surprising continued success of Kimberly. And that goes to show, for Kimberly, that goes to show just kind of what kind of program they have over there. You lose a guy like Gatlin, and then you just don't really miss a beat. But that's from what they're doing now, from what Coach Bishop built over there. It's just a churning machine at Kimberly, and they just have got athletes left and right on both boys and girls side. And then the feel-good story of it all is what's going on in Buell, with Alan Reynolds just kind of resurrecting that entire town, bringing back a sense of tribe pride, as he said, that has been gone for so long. And so there is just a genuine buzz and excitement in Buell against the continued success and dominance of Kimberly. And those two things are going to collide, and that is going to be fun.
Yeah, a couple points about Kimberly. They missed the playoffs last year where they had a lot of the same talent, but they were so injury plagued, right? They were really bit by the injury bug. And then Coach Bishop retired in the spring. They've got a new coach. And I'm so sorry if I say your name wrong. Is it Joe Dilly? Mm-hmm. Either way, he's the new head coach, and he's done a great job. He was a former assistant taking the reins, and he's done a great job with Kimberly as well. So that's going to be a fun game. Third place right now, because there are 3 bids to the playoffs out of this district. It is Wood Rivers. We talked about this last week. Wood River has played themselves in. I thought Wood River plays Gooding this Friday, and I thought, okay, Gooding's going to beat Filer on last Friday, and it's going to be a battle between Wood River and Gooding for that third and final spot. Well, Gooding loses to Filer. Wood River has already beaten Filer, so a win by Wood River against Gooding on Friday wraps it up for the Wolverines, and they'll be in the playoffs. Yeah,
no kidding. And that's kind of an interesting story too, because Wood River's the school that petitioned to drop down from 4A to 3A in football only for competitive equity, and it wasn't it was the right move. They belonged there, and but Wood River in their first year in this conference. And this conference is legit when you're talking about Buell and Kimberly in particular. Wood River just sneaking their way into the playoffs is a good story for Wood River.
Definitely. And then at the 4A level, Scott, Minico still in first. They're 4-0. They've got a bye this week, so they're off. And really, the playoff spots are still to be determined, right? Twin Falls is also undefeated in league play still. Mm-hmm. Twin Falls has an interesting game against Canyon Ridge on Friday night. So really, you've got the top 4 all kind of playing each other down the stretch here, where you've got Minico right now in first, Twin Falls is in second, Burley and Canyon Ridge are in the 3-4 slots. Canyon Ridge is in third officially. Burley is in fourth, where Canyon Ridge will play Twin Falls this Friday, Burley the following Friday. The Riverhawks can play their way into the playoffs with 2 wins there. You've got Minico and Twin Falls in a game that could decide the league title next Friday. I mean, the most important games of the season in the Great Basin seem to be coming here in the final 2 weeks.
They do, and that's how you want it set up. You know, you look at this Great Basin Conference and what's happened so far is, I mean, the top 2 teams are kind of separating themselves a little bit, and that's Minico and Twin. Everybody right now is fighting for third, and that third place obviously is coming down to Burley and Canyon Ridge. And that is going to be a huge game, the very final game of the season. If things kind of continue the way they're going, that one at Canyon Ridge High School, Friday, October 21st. And that could decide that third place in that conference.
Yep, Twin Falls beat Burley last Friday, 48-32. The ground and pound of Twin Falls is so effective, and you know, Burley. This has happened a couple times this year. They outgained Twin Falls in total yardage. They've done this a couple of times this year, but turnovers have been the problem for Burley, where they put together a long drive and then they turn it over deep in opposing territory. So yes, Burley, Canyon Ridge, and then Twin Falls, Minico, the final week of the season could determine, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the standings. And I will say for Canyon Ridge, it's looking like they need to win out because of the Max Preps rating, Scott. So I just posted this morning the latest bubble watch where I look at all the classifications, 5A all the way down to 1A D2. If the playoffs started today, who would be in, who would be on the bubble, what would the matchups be? Canyon Ridge, and this is where people are going to look at the Max Preps ratings and go, this doesn't make any sense. Canyon Ridge at 5-1 is out of the playoffs right now. And the you've got like Bonneville at 2-5. Yeah. Hillcrest is a sub 500 team. You've got a lot of sub 500 teams from the East that would be in ahead of Canyon Ridge based upon Max Preps. It's just boggles, right?
It does. And this is where people really are confused about the way Max Preps works. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you cannot look at records alone. And we are so trained to look at records as an indicator of the worth and, of a team. That's not the case. And yet, fine, go schedule 8 patsies and whip the crap out of all of them and put up an 8-0 record and then go get beat in the first round just because you didn't play anybody. Well, the Max Preps is taking that into consideration. And that's why you're seeing these 2-5 teams. Okay, well, yeah, they may have 5 losses, but who are those 5 losses to, and then you say, oh, yeah, well, I would have lost to them as well. But they're just getting better by playing those teams. And so that's why looking at records alone just isn't going to cut it in the Max Preps. Now, agree or disagree, and how teams jump each other and do all these other things that's up for debate. And you're never going to make everybody happy, because I know right now in 4A, there are people that are not happy with the way things are shaken out. Okay. But it is what it is. And it's better than the system that we had. I will say that.
And I guess here's the problem I have with it is I have no idea how they calibrate the rankings each week. So you look at, like Burley, for example, I put them in as the 3rd team in my projections because they've got a significantly higher Max Preps rating than Canyon Ridge. And you go, well, Burley's kind of played, some soft opponents, kind of like Canyon Ridge has. I guess the difference is Burley went to Bishop Kelly, the number 1 team a couple of weeks ago and got thumped. And so the thinking is, okay, even if you go lose to a good team by 50, that still helps you in the ratings. Well, Canyon Ridge played Minico last week or 2 weeks ago, right? And they went backwards in their Max Preps rating. Canyon Ridge was actually ranked higher after losing to Minico, and then they beat Mountain Home last week, and they fall backwards. I mean, I can't make heads or tails of it.
Well, see, and that's the piece that's got everybody confused. And I don't know if there's an answer to it, because when we did our research last year on this Max Preps deal, nobody knew the formula, and nobody knew exactly what affected what. They just kind of had a general idea. Even when we called Max Preps, I mean, first of all, the IHSA, they didn't know. They just hitched their wagon to Max Preps. So it's like, fine, let's go to Max Preps. We called, what is the formula? What happens particularly? What are you looking at? This, I mean, just to a detail. They didn't know, which boggled my mind. Max Preps did not know the formula that was used to calculate this because they were hitching their wagon to another system, and they didn't know the formula for that system. And so that's how Max Preps was operating. And that doesn't help anybody that's got these questions because nobody seems to have the answer.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate, as it looks right now with 2 weeks to go, Burley could finish fourth and get an at-large bid. Mm-hmm. Canyon Ridge needs to get one of those 3 auto bids. They just don't have the Max Preps rating to get an at-large slot right now, which is crazy to think about. So,
yeah, it does. And that's why that game on the 21st between Burley and Canyon Ridge is going to have so much writing on it.
Definitely. We're gonna have some tantalizing football matchups to break down next week on the podcast, Scott. Next week it'll be pretty much football, volleyball discussion. Volleyball districts will have started. We'll kind of take you through the brackets, how those look. Again, state soccer we'll have on a separate podcast, so it's going to be kind of volleyball, football, and we'll really dive into these really important football matchups next week on the Prepcast because it's going to be a lot of fun. So wear your eating pants, Scott. We've got a lot to digest.
My eating pants. I do have a pair of like little mom spandex pants that I put on for special occasions like Thanksgiving, and they expand really well.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Well, we're going to expand our way out of the room here and get ready for what lies ahead. Enjoy the weekend of competition, everybody. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.